As you see, I have an Italian name. I have a strange accent, but I'm not Italian. As you said, I'm Austrian. We all look like that, Schwarzenegger, you know. So, can I ask a question? Who is from the Bay Area? Who lives in the Bay Area? Show of hands. Okay, good. So I've been here for 14 years. Came here 2 weeks after September 11, that we really celebrated. My visa stamp was September 12th. That I had in here. It was a very interesting thing to see of how systems are being designed and work or do not work, and where apparently people are not looking at the needs of users. So I'm talking today about design thinking, which is a concept, a methodology that was invented or designed here, and is very prominent in the Bay Area, and should be also very prominent in your organizations. And I tell you why. Here's a story from an IT department that wanted to improve the conference call system. So they wanted to add functionality, make, give the users a better experience with that, add stuff so that they can schedule better conference calls and all these things. So to whom do you talk? To a person who is using that a lot. Yeah? So they went to their sales agents, and there was one lady, she was the number 2 salesperson, sales rep in their company, and they called her and said, we want to have a talk with you about how you do conference calls and so on. So she said, let's book a meeting room, and I'll tell you. But the IT guy said, no, we're not gonna go with you in a meeting room. We want to see you how you work in your office. So once they came into her office, they saw the typical things. You had a monitor, you had pictures of kids, you had 3 phones, you had books, you had flowers, all the things that is work related. And then she started working. She started a conference call. She picked up the phone, dialed the number, put the receiver on the table. She took the second phone, dialed another number, put the second phone on the second receiver on the table. She did it with the third one, and then with a cell phone, and had 4 telephone connections open. And then she bent over the table and led the conference call. If the IT guys had not seen that live, they had built basically additional functionality for a conference call system that she had never ever used. She worked the way she was used to, and that worked for her perfectly. And that is something that you have to look at. This is where design thinking comes in. You come in with the hypothesis, there is a problem. And this problem could be that improving the conference call system. But once you hit reality, while seeing a user, you realize that actually the problem is somewhere else. And then you get a new problem, and then you look at that hypothesis and work around that. So what is design thinking? And this is a long text. So design thinking is a human-centered, empathy-based approach to innovation. So human-centered and empathy-based means I really sit with my user. I sit there with my sales rep. I sit there with the person using that thing, and I feel their pain. That's where empathy comes in. So then I draw from the designer's toolkit and integrate these features, those functionalities, and try to solve the problems for the needs of those peoples, the possibilities of the technology that I have, and the requirements to succeed with business. So here's my animal, my dog. This is a satirical magazine that we had published a few years ago, and this was our house dog that we had. The dog was actually named after the magazine. And we do design thinking through iterative steps. So it's not just a linear process, a waterfall process that you had in the past. It's really iterative. We go out there with the hypothesis, test our problem, we'll see that we have another problem, so we go back, define the problem better, and go on like that. Here's an example for those of you who live in the Bay Area and have ever tried to use the BART ticket vending machine, yeah? Which is probably one of the worst systems that you can ever design. So when you're there, I've been there once, sitting in the train, seeing people and leaving the train, getting out to this other machine, to this machine here, and after 5 minutes, the same person who started there was still standing there, not able to figure out of how to buy a ticket, with already a line of 20 people behind them. So what you see is a display that's also, as you can see, very bad to read in sunlight. Yeah? You have here something, you have here a list of the fares, so this is not on the screen, this is up here. You have here some other stuff. And then, so you have to read this in order to understand where you have to go and what you have to enter. And once you are here, then you finally know where you want to go, which zone. It starts with a default value of $20 that will be charged from a credit card, and you have to use buttons to add 5 cents or deduct 5 cents until you are at this, like, let's say, 7.25, yeah? And that's how you go down. Now imagine yourself standing there, you're an IT guys, yeah? You're technically savvy, and now imagine a 70-year-old grandma, yeah, who cannot read that, who has to press those buttons. Or the mother with 2 children coming and the shopping bags in her hands, and she's standing there, the kids are cranky. This is the worst thing that you can do. Now I wanted to show you a video from IDEO, where IDEO walks you through this design process for a thing that we all know. So let's see if the audio works. I'll start the video. Oops.
Tonight, the deep dive, one company's secret weapon for innovation. We went to IDEO, the product design folk, and said, take something old and familiar, like, say, the shopping cart, and completely redesign it for us in just 5 days. ABC News correspondent Jack Smith tells us what happened next.
9 in the morning, day 1, and these people have a deadline to meet.
So welcome to the kickoff of the shopping cart project.
This is Palo Alto, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley, and these are designers at IDEO, probably the most influential product development firm in the world. IDEO has designed everything from high-tech medical equipment to the 25-foot mechanical whale in the movie Free Willy and the first computer mouse for Apple. Smith ski goggles, Nike sunglasses, NEC computer screens. Hundreds of products we take for granted.
The point is that we're not actually experts at any given area. You know, we're kind of experts on the process of how you design stuff. So we don't care if you give us a toothbrush, a toothpaste tube, a tractor, a space shuttle, you know, a chair. It's all the same to us. We want to figure out how to innovate by using our process, applying it.
Project leader is Peter Skillman, a 35-year-old Stanford engineer. Project leader because he's good with groups, not because of seniority. He's only been at IDEO for 6 years. The rest of the team is eclectic, but that's typical here. Whitney Mortimer, Harvard MBA. Peter Coughlin, linguist. Tom Kelly, Dave's brother, marketing expert. Jane Fulton-Suri, psychologist. Alex Kazaks, 26, a biology major, who's turned down medical school 3 times because he's having too much fun at IDEO. Safety emerges early as an important issue.
22,000 child injuries a year, which is, and so they're hospitalized injuries. I mean, there are many others.
And theft. It turns out a lot of carts are stolen. As the team works, it becomes clear there are no titles here, no permanent assignments.
And the other side says, gives us a lot of help, says, be safe. I'll give you a big red ball on a post, and that says you're a big guy. If you got a ball, you're a senior vice president. You know, what do I care? The desk, the red ball, it's all the same. In a very innovative culture, you can't have a kind of hierarchy of here's the boss and the next person down, the next person down, the next person down, because it's impossible that the boss is the one who's had the insightful experience with shopping carts. It's just not possible.
The team splits into groups to find out firsthand what the people who use, make, and repair shopping carts really think.
Okay, go.
The problem with the plastic cart is the wind catches it. Yeah. And these things have been clocked at 35 across the parking lot.
Oh, man, that's actually a pretty good point.
The trick is to find these real experts, and so that you can learn much more quickly than you could by just kind of doing it the normal way and trying to learn about it yourself.
From everything I read, these things aren't that safe either, you know? So probably the seat itself is going to have to be redesigned.
One of the interesting things for me is looking at how people really don't like to let go of the cart, except for the professional shopper, whose strategy is to leave the cart at various places.
3:30 in the afternoon, and the group is back at IDEO. There is no let-up.
Each team is going to demonstrate and communicate and share everything that they've learned today.
A shopping cart has been clocked at 35 miles an hour, traveling through a parking lot in the wind.
We were in the store, 2 hours, and And it was truly frightening just to see the kind of stuff going on.
You ought to designate some people to make damn sure that the store owner's point of view is represented.
After 9 straight hours, the team is tired. They call it a day.
So,
everybody cool?
Well, that's great. Thanks a lot. We had a great time today.
IDEO's mantra for innovation is written everywhere. One conversation at a time. Stay focused. Encourage wild ideas. Defer judgment. Build on the ideas of others.
That's the hardest thing for people to do, is to restrain themselves from criticizing an idea. So if anybody starts to nail an idea, they get the bell, you know.
The ideas pour out and are posted on the walls.
Oh, the blind, the privacy blind. Like when you're buying 6 cases of condoms, no one sees. If it doesn't nest, we don't have a solution.
Organized chaos. It's not organized. What it is it's focused chaos.
Vote with your Post-it, not with an idea that's cool, but with an idea that's cool and buildable. If it's too far out there and it can't be built in a day, then I don't think we should vote on it. Enlightened trial and error succeeds over the planning of lone genius.
Enlightened trial and error succeeds over the planning of the lone genius. If anything sums up IDEO's approach, that is it. That, worried that the team is drifting, what can only be called a group of self-appointed adults under Dave Kelly holds an informal side session.
4 or 5 teams. 4 or 5 teams, and we give each team a need area. It becomes very autocratic for a very short period of time in defining what things people are going to work on.
If you don't work under time constraints, you could never get anything done because it's a messy process and go on forever.
Back at the shop, it is 6 o'clock, and the 4 mock-ups are ready for showing.
Baskets also can be, if you think you will have more volume, baskets can be put in.
A modular shopping cart you pile hand baskets onto. A high-tech cart that gets you through the traffic jam at checkout.
That you could mount a scanner on the shopping cart so that you, as the customer, as you pull it off the shelf, would scan each item.
One that's built around child safety, and another that lets shoppers talk to the supermarket staff remotely.
Yeah, where can I find the yogurt?
The yogurt's over in the dairy section.
But the adults, again, decide more work needs to be done before the mock-ups can be combined into one last prototype.
Why don't we have all the carts come up here for a second?
I think you take a piece of each one of these ideas and kind of back it off a little bit and then put it in the design.
The design is still not there. But there's another motto at IDEO: fail often in order to succeed sooner. And some of the team will be up half the night trying to put together a design that finally does work.
Be good.
There it is! There it is! So we took the best elements out of each prototype.
The cart, which is designed to cost about the same as today's carts, is different in every other way.
What do you think?
Well, I'm very proud of the team. I think it's great.
Does this work for you?
Works for me great. Yeah. It's also beautiful.
The cart's wheels turn 90 degrees so it can move sideways. No more lifting up the rear in a tight spot. And you shop in a totally different way. The bags are hung on hooks on the cart's frame. Remember, there is no basket here.
At first, I was a little shocked, but I think you have some fantastic ideas here. It needs a little refining, but I think that it's great. I mean, we would want them.
She also gave us some really good comments about how we can make this thing better.
A lot of hours. Also, an open mind, a boss who demands fresh ideas be quirky and clash with his, a belief that chaos can be constructive, and teamwork. A great deal of teamwork. And these are the recipe for how innovation takes place. This is Jack Smith for Nightline in Palo Alto, California.
So when you go to IDEO in Palo Alto, you can actually see this shopping cart there standing and experiencing it yourself. This is not just for hardcore, products like this. You can also use it for services and IT solutions. SAP actually uses that methodology a lot. We have several thousand. SAP has, I still talk about we. I've left SAP 2 years ago after 15 years. But SAP has trained several thousand people, and the former SAP CTO, Vishal Sikka, who is now the CEO of Infosys, trained within the first 9 months 40,000 people of the Indian consulting company and outsourcing company Infosys, 40,000 people with this methodology. So you can really use that for those things as well. So the way it works is, the first phase is empathize, trying to understand really the problem that people have. Then you go and define your persona. Who is using that stuff? What are the whys, why they are using that? You ideate, figure out new ideas on that, and prototype and test it with them. And once you have that, you can launch it or you go back. So this is not a linear process. This is really an iterative process where you can go back every step in the while. So here's here pictures from a call center in Canada that I was working with. And what I do is I take pictures of these persons, of my user's desk, whatever she has there, gives me then clues of what she may be interested in, from baby pictures that she has up there, from telephone numbers that she has there, from 2 screens with 15 different applications that she uses in order to do her work. That gives me a lot of insight. I want to show you another short video from Dave Kelly talking about something else. So that gives you also a clue why it is important to really do this empathize phase.
About 10 years ago, we got approached by one of the largest oral healthcare companies in America, a company you've probably heard of called Oral-B. And they said, look, we'd like a new kid's toothbrush because ours is starting to get commoditized. It looks like a lot of kids' toothbrushes out there, and you can't have that. We want to be special, right? So we say, okay, we'll do this. We want to go out in the field and do some field research. And they're kind of not sure about that. Like, it's not rocket science. We're talking about kids brushing their teeth. How hard could that be, right? They would really like us to stop fooling around and start designing, right? But we want to go through this process, this observation process, because we think almost always you can spot opportunities. And so we go out, and we're on like the first day of observations, and we make a small discovery. The small discovery we make is that every kid's toothbrush in the history of the world has had the same implicit assumption. It's a logical assumption, it just isn't exactly right, which is the assumption always was parents have big hands, kids have small hands, and so when you want to make the kid's version, make it like the parent's brush, only smaller and skinnier. Perfectly logical until you go out in the field. Until you actually watch humans, little tiny humans, brushing their teeth. And what you notice right away, you get a 5-year-old boy brushing his teeth, he's not holding his toothbrush in his fingertips the way mom and dad do, he's fisting it. He's holding it like this because he doesn't have the dexterity, he doesn't have the fine motor controls that his parents have, and so he's got to hold it like this. In fact, the other thing he does is he holds the brush too far up very frequently until he's punching himself in the face as he's trying to brush his teeth, and we solved that problem too. But the main thing was, came back in the field and said, uh-oh, kids don't need little skinny toothbrushes, kids need big fat toothbrushes, right? Let's make them big fat squishy toothbrushes. And you may have noticed, now every toothbrush company in the world makes these, but our client reports that after we made that little tiny discovery, out in the field, sitting in a bathroom watching a 5-year-old boy brush his teeth, they had the best-selling kids' toothbrush in the world for 18 months.
So that's why observation is important. Once you observe those kids or these users that you have, you create what is called a persona. You define them. So you're a prototypical one, not the customer segment, but really a prototypical one. Here's some examples from a Swiss customer that I had. Then you ideate around that, and you can use any tools from Lego toys to sticks and pipe cleaners in order to create a first prototype and play around with that. And then, so the beginning in this ideation, you try to diverge with your ideas, as many ideas as possible before you then go and converge and go back to these really feasible, viable, and desirable things. Then you prototype. Here we did design thinking with kids, and they came up with Play-Doh and did stuff. You see others, General Electric's doing here an example with their offshore boats for drilling oil. And then you test it. So you test it with your users, or you test it with the people that are in the workshop, and explain it to them and get the feedback. So these are the steps. How can you now learn more about that? So one thing, there are of course books on that field, but of course it's maybe better to use a workshop and look at a workshop and experience it yourself. It gives you a lot of insight of how wrong you may be at the beginning, and once you make that experience, you understand what do you actually do normally to your users if you're not asking them? And actually you're wasting money if you spend 6 months on creating a solution without ever having seen your customer. I had a startup just this week that I was talking to, and they had worked 1 year already on the product, and it turns out that they had not even talked to one single user yet. So it was completely unclear what the users want. I do have also books. Gamification is a space that I'm working in. I use design thinking here, also in the space of community and innovation management or sales and support. That may be interesting for you. If you want to get in touch with me, here is my information. Thank you. Thank you, John. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mario. Mario very graciously agreed he's actually about to go and soon hop on a plane because some of your customers are over in Europe, and so you're headed all over the world. What would you say is the impact of design thinking on SAP and how they deliver their products to customers?
Well, you know, SAP software products, yeah, they are very complex and difficult to use. When you look at how SAP is under pressure on cloud solutions, so you go on a cloud solution today. I, as a small entrepreneur, I need a CRM solution, a small CRM solution. So when I go, I'm not buying SAP. Yes, I'm not buying an SAP installation where I need 12 months to install a CRM solution for me. So I go also on cloud, on a cloud solution. And if I don't understand it within 5 minutes, I'm just not using that. If it tells me that how dumb I am, I'm not feeling well with that. So I go and test this out. That means you don't have this chance anymore, even as a large IT corporation. And you have this consumerization of IT where your people are pressing in stuff into you. Yeah? So they're not taking your stuff, but they are using other stuff that comes from outside. Good example is just these kind of devices. Yeah? When they came in, IT at SAP was forced actually through the users, through the employees to use these devices, and many people found them more intuitive than the BlackBerries that SAP had. 18,000 BlackBerries back then at SAP, and within a year this number just dropped to nearly half, less than half of that. So it influences IT and how work is done.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks, Mario.